the Library of Secrets, where CIA stores the information of the world in the remote outskirts of Northern Virginia. Shrouded beneath layers of seemingly ordinary government facilities, a secret pulse of intelligence quietly thrived. To the untrained eye, it appeared as nothing more than an abandoned warehouse, its walls cracked and paint peeling. Yet beneath this facade lay the first whispers of what would become the CIA's most elusive and powerful asset, the Library of Secrets. Its existence was whispered about in classified circles, a myth to some, an obsession to others, and a lifeline for the world's most clandestine operatives. The story begins with a young analyst named Evelyn Marsh, recently recruited from a top cryptography program. Evelyn had always been drawn to puzzles, to the hidden patterns that others overlooked. When she received the assignment to survey an archival vault under construction, she had no idea that she was about to step into a labyrinth that would redefine intelligence collection forever. Her first day brought a chill, the air heavy with the scent of concrete and machine oil, the low hum of unseen generators vibrating through the reinforced floors. The facility was alive, almost breathing, yet silent in its purpose. Every footstep echoed in the emptiness as she descended a steel staircase that seemed to vanish into darkness. At the bottom, the vault opened like a cathedral of secrets. Rows upon rows of towering storage units stretched infinitely, each meticulously cataloged and encrypted. The walls themselves seemed to hum with quiet authority, lined with embedded sensors and laser grids designed to detect the faintest anomaly. Evelyn's heart raced as she realized the scale of the operation. Every inch of this underground labyrinth had been engineered to preserve knowledge at a level no library on the surface could match. Here, documents, recordings, and microfilms from across the globe were stored not just as information, but as living intelligence. The vault beneath the silence was not merely a storage facility. It was a heartbeat in the network of global espionage. The origins of this subterranean archive were as fascinating as its contents. Conceived in the shadows of the Cold War, a handful of visionary architects, whose names were long erased from public record, had designed it. Their goal was deceptively simple: to create a single repository capable of housing every piece of intelligence the United States could acquire. From satellite imagery to intercepted communications, from field reports to enemy blueprints. Yet simplicity in design was only the beginning. Every door, corridor, and chamber was laced with redundancies and security protocols. Often invisible to the human eye, each layer designed to protect against breaches from the outside and, potentially, from within. Evelyn's first assignment was deceptively mundane: audit the indexing system of one particular wing. But as she navigated the dimly lit aisles, her curiosity led her to notice patterns in the organization patterns that suggested the architects had designed the library not just as a vault, but as a cognitive map. The shelving units, the numbering, the angle of light in certain corridors seemed to encode more than storage. They encoded meaning, a language only intelligible to those trained to read it. She understood then that this was more than intelligence storage. It was a living network, capable of responding, adapting, and even prioritizing information according to perceived global threats. The silence itself was part of the library's protection. There were no alarms that shouted. There were no guards wandering visible hallways. Instead, motion sensors, pressure pads, and biometric locks operated in harmony to create a silent symphony of security. Every misstep, every irregular heartbeat, every deviation from protocol would be detected, recorded, and assessed before any human ever had to intervene. The vault beneath the silence was a paradox: invisible yet omnipotent, empty yet alive, silent yet speaking volumes to those who knew how to listen. As Evelyn explored further, Sue stumbled upon a section marked Preliminary Acquisition Files Do Not Access Without Clearance Alpha. These were documents so sensitive that even many senior analysts were unaware of their existence. The envelopes contained intelligence collected from decades of covert operations, some classified beyond the highest standard of national security, some documenting events that had never reached public knowledge. Here, in this controlled silence, history itself seemed to be catalogued, preserved in a digital and physical matrix that defied conventional understanding. Hours passed, yet Evelyn felt as though she had been there only minutes. The deeper she delved, the more she realized that the vault was not just a building or a storage system, it was a living organism, a central nervous system connecting countless other operations around the globe. From field agents in Asia to satellites orbiting Earth, every piece of intelligence funneled here, scrutinized and archived with surgical precision. And yet, despite its immense scale, the system remained elegantly quiet, efficiently orchestrated, and almost impossibly secure. As night descended over the surface, the vault beneath the silence continued its ceaseless vigil. Evelyn, now immersed in the rhythm of its operations, understood the weight of the secret she had entered. This was no ordinary assignment. She had become part of an unbroken chain of custodians who safeguarded the world's information. The vault would not sleep, and neither could she. Every file, every encoded microfilm, every whispered note from operatives far away was part of a pulse, a living library that required constant attention. In the end, the first day in the vault revealed the staggering truth. Knowledge, when preserved with precision and secrecy, became power in its purest form. And those who controlled this vault controlled not only information, but the ability to shape the course of history itself. Evelyn stepped back to the main corridor, absorbing the enormity of what lay before her. In that silence, she heard the faint hum of the unseen mechanisms, a reminder that the Library of Secrets had begun its eternal watch, and she was now one of its keepers. Long before Evelyn Marsh stepped into the labyrinth of intelligence, long before the vault beneath the silence had even been whispered about, a select group of minds began a project that would redefine how the CIA collected, preserved, and controlled information. They were known simply within classified circles as the architects of knowledge, a network of engineers, strategists, cryptographers, and former field operatives who had been drawn together by a singular vision: to build a library capable of storing the entire spectrum of global intelligence, from the mundane to the highly sensitive. Their work was not only technical, but philosophical. They debated endlessly about what intelligence truly meant, questioning the very concept of knowledge. Could it be stored without losing context? Could patterns in human behavior be cataloged as rigorously as a financial ledger? And most importantly, how could this intelligence remain secure from the prying eyes of adversaries, insiders, and even the occasional rogue operative? Each debate, each design meeting, left traces in the blueprint of what would become the Library of Secrets. Among the most influential architects was Dr. Leonard Havelock, a cryptographer whose work on layered encryption systems had once baffled the NSA. Havelock believed that a library storing secrets needed to be more than a physical space. It had to function as a cognitive organism, capable of interpreting, prioritizing, and even predicting threats. Alongside him worked Sophia Tran, a structural engineer whose designs combined aesthetic elegance with operational security. She introduced innovations in subterranean construction that allowed the vault to remain stable, yet expandable, with hidden chambers and redundant pathways that could be accessed only through complex authorization protocols. Another key figure was Marcus Kilpatrick, a former field operative with decades of experience in covert operations across Europe and Asia. He insisted that the architects consider the human element, the analysts, the couriers, and the codebreakers, who would interact with the facility. Every corridor, every workstation, every light placement was meticulously planned to reduce fatigue, prevent mistakes, and maintain the flow of intelligence. Kilpatrick's insistence on operational ergonomics, combined with Havelock's cognitive mapping and transstructural innovations, produced a library that was both alive and impervious. The architects faced a series of unprecedented challenges. First, they had to secure funding and approval without revealing the project's true scope. This meant weaving a web of cover projects, falsified budgets, and phantom contractors. Every blueprint shared externally was deliberately misleading, with decoy specifications and false labels. Only the inner circle of architects knew the full magnitude of what they were building. Second, they had to create a system resilient to natural disasters, espionage, and sabotage. The underground vault was designed to withstand earthquakes, floods, and even electromagnetic pulses. Hidden sensors monitored every structural shift, and redundant backup systems ensured no data would ever be irretrievably lost. As construction progressed, the architects employed innovative technologies decades ahead of their time. Walls were embedded with sensors that could detect the microscopic presence of unauthorized materials. Magnetic fields masked digital signals from external scanners. Even the air circulation system was engineered to filter particles and prevent contaminants from reaching sensitive materials. Every detail was scrutinized, tested, and iterated, often in secret testing facilities where the outside world believed nothing unusual was occurring. But the architects understood that physical security alone was not enough. Encryption and code systems formed the backbone of the library's intelligence preservation. Havelock developed what would later become known as the Living Codex, a system capable of dynamically reorganizing and prioritizing files based on emerging threats and ongoing operations. This codex was not static. It learned, adapted, and even suggested connections between seemingly unrelated data points. Analysts working within the library often described it as a silent partner, a digital entity that anticipated their questions before they even arose. Despite the brilliance of the design, the architects also acknowledged the human cost. Many of them worked in isolation for years, their families and personal lives sacrificed for the sake of secrecy. They communicated in code names, met in windowless rooms, and trusted only a select few. Every misstep could result in catastrophic exposure, and the pressure was relentless. Yet, driven by a vision larger than themselves, they persevered. They knew that the library would not only safeguard intelligence, but would become a cornerstone of global security, a shield behind which operations could unfold unseen. As Evelyn later discovered, every corridor she walked, every sensor she passed, and every document she cataloged was a direct result of the architect's foresight. They had anticipated needs decades into the future, designed redundancies for threats not yet imagined, and created a living archive that could grow infinitely without compromising its integrity. The Library of Secrets was not simply a building. It was the culmination of genius, discipline, and foresight's a testament to the architect's vision that knowledge, when mastered and protected, could become the ultimate weapon and safeguard simultaneously. By the time the final phase of construction was complete, the Library of Secrets had achieved what seemed impossible: a balance between accessibility and absolute security, between human operation and autonomous intelligence, between silence and influence. The vault beneath the silence was just the beginning. The true heart of the library was in the meticulous orchestration of design and knowledge, a blueprint that would guide the CIA's information strategy for decades. As Evelyn later walked those silent corridors, she could feel the presence of the architects in every detail, from the way light fell on the floors to the subtle hum of the sensors, a constant reminder that this library was engineered not merely for storage, but as a living monument to intelligence itself. The architects of knowledge had not only built a vault, they had constructed a mind, a system capable of thinking, protecting, and preserving the world's most sensitive secrets long after they themselves had vanished into obscurity. Beneath the layers of concrete and reinforced steel, beyond the vaults and corridors meticulously designed by the architects, lay the true marvel of the Library of Secrets, the rooms that remember everything. These were not ordinary storage rooms. Each chamber functioned like a living archive, capable of preserving every document, recording, and microfilm with near-perfect fidelity, and more importantly, capable of recalling that information at unprecedented speeds when summoned by the right protocols. Evelyn Marsh's first encounter with these rooms was disorienting. As she passed through the airlock into the central chamber, A soft hum resonated through the floor. Shelving units stretched from floor to ceiling, their surfaces embedded with sensors, holographic indexing panels, and silent tracking systems. The walls themselves were lined with specialized alloys designed to maintain temperature, humidity, and electromagnetic stability. Every inch of space was optimized to preserve information. Whether it was a fragile 60-year-old microfilm reel or a terabyte-scale digital archive, what fascinated Evelyn most was the memory-like quality of the rooms themselves. Each space was engineered to know what it held. A file removed from a shelf would be logged automatically, its location and movement tracked in real time. Environmental controls would adjust based on the type of material present. Delicate paper documents were kept at exact humidity levels, while magnetic storage arrays were shielded from even the faintest electromagnetic interference. It was as if the room itself was alive, conscious of the intelligence it housed. The design of these rooms was the culmination of years of research into both archival science and cognitive technology. Engineers and scientists had developed systems that combined artificial intelligence with highly advanced sensory networks. These networks could detect degradation in materials, predict potential threats to preservation, and even suggest optimal storage solutions for incoming data. For the analysts working there, it was like walking into a library with a memory that rivaled the human brain itself. Every item remembered, every relationship cataloged, every anomaly flagged before it became a problem. In one particularly remarkable chamber, Evelyn observed a bank of holographic displays projecting a three-dimensional map of intelligence flows. Each node represented a piece of information from intercepted communications in the Middle East to satellite. Imagery in the arcticand lines of light connected them, revealing patterns, correlations, and historical context. The room, in essence, remembered not just the data, but its significance. The links between events, and the hidden narratives embedded within raw intelligence. Accessing information was both precise and ritualistic. Analysts would scan their biometric credentials, and the room would illuminate only the sections relevant to their clearance. Filaments of light would trace the paths to the requested files, guiding them silently through the maze of intelligence. Unlike traditional databases, the system did not merely retrieve files, it contextualized them, cross-referencing decades of information and highlighting connections that could alter the understanding of global events. The rooms that remember everything also held the most delicate of secrets. Documents that had never been digitized, handwritten notes from field agents, and rare microfilms that recorded covert operations in real time were preserved in specialized chambers. Each chamber was a microcosm of history itself, a controlled environment where time moved differently and decay had no authority. It was here that Evelyn began to appreciate the weight of the library's responsibility to protect knowledge so that it could inform decisions without ever being lost or compromised. The intelligence preserved within these rooms extended beyond mere documentation. It included surveillance footage, intercepted communications, and digital traces from foreign operatives. Each piece was meticulously tagged, encrypted, and stored in such a way that even if a segment of the room were compromised, the integrity of the archive remained intact. Redundant systems mirrored the data, creating layers upon layers of preservation that rivaled any modern supercomputer network. Evelyn spent days exploring these rooms, often losing track of time as she marveled at their design. She noted that even the simplest actions, removing a document, scanning a file, or cross-referencing a report, activated a symphony of silent processes. The rooms were always vigilant, always remembering, always ready to respond. They had been built not just to store information, but to understand it, to provide insights invisible to ordinary analysis. By the end of her first week, Evelyn realized that the Library of Secrets was not just a repository. It was an ecosystem. Every room, every shelf, every sensor worked in unison to maintain the integrity of global intelligence. And the rooms themselves, with their memory-like capabilities, were the heart of this ecosystem. They remembered everything, every action, every file, every secret, and in doing so, They became far more than physical spaces. They became the silent witnesses to history, guardians of knowledge, and the foundation upon which the CIA could operate with unparalleled foresight. Walking out of the central chamber that evening, Evelyn paused to reflect. The hum of the ventilation, the faint glimmer of holographic indexing, the invisible tracking of every object he'd all whispered one undeniable truth. These rooms remembered everything, and in their memory lay the power to understand the world in ways no outsider could imagine. Within the immense corridors and the memory-laden rooms of the Library of Secrets, another layer of guardianship existed, silent, disciplined, and formidable. They were known as the Codex Keepers, a cadre of experts entrusted not only with the protection of classified materials, but with the interpretation, validation, and organization of intelligence that flowed into the library from every corner of the globe. To Evelyn Marsh, encountering them was like stepping into a different realm of espionage, one where every movement, every decision, and every thought was part of an intricate choreography. The Codex Keepers were not ordinary analysts. They were polymaths, trained in cryptography, linguistics, history, and cyber intelligence. Many had previously operated deep in the field, running covert operations or decrypting enemy communications. Others had mastered algorithmic systems capable of predicting potential global threats long before they emerged. Together, they formed a human network that was as precise, disciplined, and silent as the vault itself. Evelyn quickly realized that while the rooms remembered everything, it was the Codex Keepers who gave meaning to that memory. One of the senior keepers, a man known only as Lieutenant Commander Elias Varn, exemplified their role. With decades of field experience and a mind attuned to the subtlest patterns, Varn could review intelligence streams and immediately recognize anomalies. To an outsider, his work appeared methodical and slow, but in reality, every gesture, every glance, every keystroke was calculated to decipher information that others might miss entirely. He had an almost uncanny ability to see connections where none seemed to exist, linking documents and microfilms across decades and continents. The Codex Keepers operated under a strict philosophy. Knowledge without comprehension was meaningless. Their job was not merely to guard documents, but to interpret the intelligence within, assess its relevance, and ensure it could be acted upon with precision. This required an extraordinary combination of memory, reasoning, and foresight. Evelyn observed them in their workstations, their eyes scanning streams of digital codes while simultaneously recalling historical precedents and operational patterns. Their collective intelligence created a living, breathing system of analysis that complemented the mechanical memory of the rooms themselves. Security, of course, was paramount. The Codex Keepers followed protocols so stringent that even a single misstep could trigger alarms throughout the facility. Biometric scans, multi-layered passcodes, and time-sensitive authentication procedures were standard. But there was an unspoken vigilance as well. Every keeper observed the others, ensuring that integrity and discretion were maintained at all times. Trust was absolute, yet constantly verified. In many ways, they were as much a security system as the reinforced steel and sensor arrays of the vault. The Keepers also managed the Living Codex, the eye-driven system developed by Dr. Leonard Havelock. This system, capable of dynamically reorganizing and cross-referencing intelligence, required constant human oversight to ensure accuracy, relevance, and ethical application. While the rooms remembered the data, the Codex Keepers interpreted it, connecting the dots, predicting patterns, and guiding decisions for intelligence operations worldwide. Without them, the library would have been a static archive. With them, it became an active, responsive brain, capable of influencing global events silently and decisively. Evelyn was particularly fascinated by their training in pattern recognition and historical context. The Keepers were able to detect the faintest deviations in communication, intercepts, subtle changes in diplomatic reporting, or minor anomalies in field reports. Their methods combined centuries of intelligence methodology with cutting-edge technology, creating an analytical capability that was almost preternatural. A single keeper could analyze streams of data that would overwhelm conventional analysts. And together, they formed a network capable of processing volumes of information unimaginable to anyone outside the library. Beyond their technical expertise, the Codex Keepers carried a deep sense of stewardship. They understood that the intelligence they managed was not merely information, but power. It's capable of influencing decisions, conflicts, and the course of nations. Every encrypted file, every microfilm, every intercepted communication was a thread in a vast tapestry, and the Keepers were tasked with weaving it into a coherent, actionable narrative. Their work was silent, unseen, and often unacknowledged, yet it formed the backbone of the CIA's operational strategy. By the end of Evelyn's first month observing them, she realized the extent of their impact. The Codex Keepers were more than analysts. They were custodians of history, interpreters of truth, and guardians of the intelligence that shaped the world. Each day, as they moved silently through the library, their presence was felt in the way information flowed, in the precision of retrievals, and in the silent confidence with which the facility operated. They were the living bridge between raw data and actionable intelligence, the human element that gave life to the vault's memory and ensured that the Library of Secrets remained not just a storage space, but a source of unparalleled insight. As Evelyn concluded her observations for the day, she walked past the central chamber, noting the quiet efficiency of the Codex Keepers at work. In their calm, calculated presence, she understood a fundamental truth. The rooms remembered everything, but it was the Keepers who gave it purpose, direction, and meaning. Without them, the vault would have been merely a silent tomb of intelligence. With them, it became the living mind of the CIA. Even as the Library of Secrets slumbered in silence above, beneath its concrete layers, intelligence moved like a river with no pause, no rest, no end. This was the realm of secrets that never sleep, the vast and constantly evolving network of files, codes, and communications that pulsed silently through the heart of the vault. Evelyn Marsh, now familiar with the memory of the rooms and the vigilance of the Codex Keepers, began to understand a terrifying and exhilarating truth. The library was alive, and its lifeblood was intelligence itself. The secrets were not static. They flowed in real time from every corner of the globe. Satellites beamed imagery to the library's servers, intercepted transmissions from embassies, and field agents streamed directly into encrypted channels, and cyber intelligence collected data continuously, analyzing it for patterns, anomalies, and threats. Each byte of information was immediately cataloged, indexed, and cross-referenced. The vault beneath the silence was no longer just a storage facility, it was a living organism, and its intelligence never slept. Evelyn's first encounter with this phenomenon occurred during a late-night audit. She noticed small, flickering lights on the indexing panel's indicators of activity in parts of the library she had yet accessed. Reports, logs, and encrypted communications were updating continuously, reflecting a stream of events happening in real time across continents. One moment she observed intercepted communications from the Middle East, the next, a satellite image from the Arctic. Then decrypted messages from an operative deep in East Asia. The pace was relentless. Yet the library absorbed it seamlessly, maintaining perfect order amid chaos. The flow of secrets was governed by a sophisticated orchestration of human oversight and AI automation. The living codex, overseen by the Codex Keepers, ensured that the most critical information rose to prominence, while routine intelligence was cataloged and stored for reference. Priority was constantly adjusted based on emerging global events, potential threats, and strategic value. Evelyn realized that the library had its own internal sense of importance, autonomously deciding which secrets demanded immediate attention and which could be archived temporarily, all without human instruction. Security remained paramount. The intelligence streams were heavily encrypted and constantly monitored. Automated countermeasures detected anomalies in access patterns, suspicious intrusions, or attempts to breach the system. Even the Codex Keepers could not override certain protocols without multi-layered authorization. The library's secrets were awake at all times, and any attempt to manipulate or misuse them was instantly detected and contained. Evelyn understood that this level of vigilance created not only a protective barrier, but a dynamic, responsive intelligence ecosystem that mirrored the activity of the world it monitored. Some of the most sensitive secrets were literally alive in their own way. Advanced digital archives used predictive algorithms to anticipate potential threats, recalculating probabilities continuously as new information arrived. Field reports, satellite imagery, and intercepted communications were analyzed and reanalyzed, revealing patterns, connections, and opportunities that humans alone could not detect. To Evelyn, it felt like watching an intelligence organism breathe, adapt, and react to the world outside, silently shaping decisions and guiding operations far from the library's physical confines. The human element was equally crucial. Codex Keepers monitored anomalies, validated predictive results, and provided contextual analysis. Their intuition guided the AI, and in return, the AI revealed insights that would have been impossible for any single human to detect. This synergy created a cycle of continuous vigilance. The secrets never rested, and neither could the library's custodians. Evelyn often marveled at the efficiency of this system, where field agents and operatives operated in fragmented pieces of information. The library saw everything at once, forming a comprehensive global intelligence mosaic. Evelyn discovered that the library's secrets were not merely passive repositories. They were instruments of foresight. Decisions made based on this intelligence influenced covert operations, diplomatic strategies, and even technological developments around the globe. In a very real sense, the Library of Secrets, through its ceaseless activity, was a silent actor on the world stage, shaping events without anyone outside the facility ever realizing its influence. One night, as she walked the central corridor, Evelyn paused before a row of encrypted servers, listening to the faint hum of activity. The hum was constant, like a heartbeat, a reminder that the vault beneath the silence was awake, alert, and always watching. Every intercepted communication, every digital footprint, every field report contributed to a vast and unbroken network of intelligence. The library's secrets never slept, and their vigilance ensured that the CIA always held a step ahead in the shadow wars that unfolded around the globe. In the quiet, Evelyn understood the magnitude of what she had entered. These were not merely files, documents, or recordings. They were living intelligence, constantly refreshed, analyzed, and interpreted. They represented decades of covert operations, the lifeblood of global security, and the power to anticipate threats before they emerged. The Library of Secrets was not merely a repository, it was a sentient observer, a guardian, and an active participant in the world it silently recorded. Beyond the labyrinthine vaults, the memory-laden rooms, and the ceaseless activity of the Codex Keepers, there existed another world. Within the Library of Secrets, beneath the classified light, a realm so restricted, so profoundly guarded that even seasoned analysts tread carefully when entering its domain. It was here that the most sensitive intelligence, the pieces that could alter nations, rewrite history, or expose operations spanning decades, was stored. The classified light was not just illumination. It was a symbol, a barrier, a warning. Only those with absolute clearance could proceed. And even then, every step was monitored with surgical precision. Evelyn Marsh first encountered this space under strict supervision. The entrance was a narrow portal of reinforced titanium, layered with biometric locks, retinal scans, and AI-driven authentication protocols. As the heavy door slid open, a soft, almost ethereal glow filled the chamber. The light was intentionally muted, calibrated to reduce glare and enhance the visibility of the holographic panels, microfilms, and encrypted data arrays that floated in the air like suspended constellations. This was a place where intelligence was not merely stored. It was curated, dissected, and preserved in its purest form. The walls pulsed with embedded LEDs, each coding and decoding information in real time. Floating holographic interfaces displayed multi-dimensional analysis maps of covert operations, predictive threat matrices, and interlinked dossiers of global significance. The classified light revealed not what was obvious, but what was hidden. Relationships, vulnerabilities, and anomalies invisible under normal illumination. Evelyn felt as though she was walking through a living intelligence organism, each photon carrying secrets, each shadow concealing truths. At the center of the chamber stood Director Alaric Vaughn, one of the library's most enigmatic overseers. His calm demeanor masked decades of clandestine operations. With a mere gesture, he could summon decades of intelligence across continents. Cross-referencing intercepted communications, satellite imagery, and field reports in seconds. Evelyn watched in awe as entire networks of foreign operatives, past and present, materialized in holographic form, revealing connections and patterns that defied conventional analysis. Vaughn's presence exemplified the human element in a space where data, while powerful, required mastery to be actionable. Beneath the classified light, nothing was accidental. The very air was filtered to prevent contamination. Vibrations were minimized to protect fragile microfilms. And temperature and humidity were controlled with unparalleled precision. Every file had its designated position, every hologram its precise calibration. And every access was logged, encrypted, and time-stamped in multiple independent systems. This level of control was necessary because the intelligence contained here was not only highly sensitive, it was potentially world-altering. A single misstep could compromise operations, reveal covert agents, or destabilize geopolitical balances. The chamber also housed rare intelligence artifacts, documents from secret negotiations, coded field notes from decades-long operations, and intercepted transmissions that had never been disclosed publicly. Each artifact was preserved in bespoke containers that combined advanced materials science with microsensory monitoring. The Codex Keepers who worked here were specially trained, not only in encryption and interpretation, but also in the ethical weight of the information they handled. These keepers understood that knowledge was power, and that misuse could have consequences extending far beyond the walls of the library. Evelyn noticed subtle patterns in the chamber's design that revealed another layer of sophistication. The lighting, the positioning of panels, and the ambient displays all served a dual purpose: to enhance cognitive efficiency for the human analysts while simultaneously embedding multiple layers of automated security. Unauthorized entry, environmental anomalies, or even unscheduled activity triggered discrete countermeasures, silently sealing corridors, alerting remote monitors, or encrypting the data in ways that rendered it inaccessible until verified. Beneath the classified light, the facility was alive, aware, and impenetrable. The intelligence stored here was in constant flux. Predictive algorithms continuously updated dossiers. Historical analyses were re-evaluated in light of emerging data, and encrypted streams of real-time intelligence arrived from field agents, satellites, and cyber monitoring stations. To Evelyn, it felt like standing inside the central nervous system of a vast organism, one whose pulse extended into the very fabric of global security. Every decision, every pattern, every prediction was orchestrated within this glow, revealing the invisible architecture of influence that shaped CIA operations worldwide. As Evelyn left the chamber that evening, the classified light dimmed behind her, leaving her with a profound sense of responsibility. She had glimpsed the nerve center where knowledge was distilled into power, where every secret was alive, every connection visible, and every action accountable. Beneath the classified light, the Library of Secrets revealed its ultimate truth: that intelligence was not merely to be stored, but to be understood, protected, and applied with precision beyond imagination. Deep beneath the layers of reinforced concrete, humming servers, and rooms that remembered everything, There existed a sanctum so secretive that its existence was almost mythic, even within the CIA itself. This was the final archive. The pinnacle of the Library of Secrets saw repository containing the agency's most sensitive, most powerful intelligence, the ultimate culmination of decades of covert operations, encrypted communications, and top-secret field reports. It was here that Evelyn Marsh would finally understand the magnitude of what she had been entrusted with. Access to the final archive was tightly controlled, limited to only a handful of individuals with clearance beyond any conventional level. Even the Codex Keepers approached this chamber with a reverence reserved for sacred spaces. The entrance was concealed behind multiple layers of security: biometric scans, retina recognition, multi-factor authentication, and an eye-driven behavioral assessment that monitored every intention, heartbeat, and micro-expression before granting permission. Every step toward the archive was deliberate, every motion observed, every glance calculated. The archive itself was not only a place of storage, it was a sentinel, guarding intelligence that could shift the balance of power globally. Evelyn's first impression upon entering was one of awe and vertigo. Rows upon rows of encrypted data, arrays stretched infinitely, illuminated by a soft, almost otherworldly glow. Holographic projections displayed decades of classified operations, covert missions that had shaped international politics, negotiations that had never reached the public eye, and counterintelligence operations that had neutralized threats before they became crises. The room pulsed with a silent intelligence, as though the very walls were alive, aware, and vigilant. Every byte of data, every microfilm, every coded message was preserved in a state of constant readiness, capable of being summoned, analyzed, and cross-referenced instantly. Here, the intelligence was not just stored, it lived. Predictive algorithms, fed by decades of data, scanned incoming information for patterns, anomalies, and connections. The archive anticipated potential threats before they materialized, suggesting actions, generating insights, and highlighting risks. Evelyn realized that the library's memory, while vast, was only the first layer. The final archive transformed memory into understanding, and understanding into foresight. Decisions were informed here, not just by what had happened, but by what could happen, creating a silent advantage in a world governed by uncertainty. The human element remained critical. Senior Codex Keepers worked alongside AI systems, interpreting the outputs, validating predictions, and applying ethical judgment where necessary. They were the guardians of context, ensuring that raw intelligence did not become misused or misunderstood. Evelyn observed their quiet discipline, each movement purposeful, each interaction calculated. They had the weight of history in their hands, and every action carried consequences far beyond the walls of the library. In one isolated chamber within the final archive, Evelyn discovered files marked with the highest classification: operational sovereignty do not access, without triple clearance. These documents contained the most sensitive intelligence the CIA had ever acquired. Reports from undercover agents who had infiltrated hostile organizations, communications intercepted from global adversaries, and analyses of covert operations that had remained hidden from even the highest levels of government. Handling these files required precision, understanding, and an almost ritualistic care. Any mistake could have catastrophic consequences. Yet, despite the formidable security and staggering scale of intelligence, Evelyn noted a subtle elegance in the design. The final archive was not merely a vault. It was a cognitive ecosystem: sensors, holographic interfaces, and AI-driven predictive models worked in harmony with human expertise, creating a synchronized intelligence environment. The rooms, the keepers, and the systems together formed a living organism that was simultaneously reactive and anticipatory, silent yet omnipotent. As Evelyn walked through the archive, she felt the weight of countless decisions made, risks mitigated, and crises averted, all recorded and preserved within this space. The library had seen wars, espionage, conflicts, and global shifts. It had collected the intelligence that defined the past, monitored the present, and forecasted the future. In its stillness, it was dynamic. In its silence, it spoke volumes. The final lesson for Evelyn, the culmination of months spent navigating this underground labyrinth, became clear. Knowledge, when meticulously preserved, interpreted, and safeguarded, was more than power. It was the ability to shape reality itself. The final archive was the ultimate testament to human ingenuity, discipline, and foresight. It was the apex of the Library of Secrets, the living repository of the CIA's influence and vigilance, and a silent witness to the forces that shaped the modern world. Leaving the chamber that evening, Evelyn paused for a final glance. The hum of servers, the glow of holographic projections, the meticulous order of intelligence, all whispered a truth both sobering and awe-inspiring. The Library of Secrets would endure, its knowledge eternal, and its watch unending. She had become a part of its history, a keeper among keepers, entrusted with the secrets that never sleep, preserved beneath the classified light, within the vault beneath the silence. And as the heavy doors closed behind her, the library continued its silent vigil, alive, aware, and unyielding, guarding the intelligence of the world for those who would shape it with discretion, wisdom, and unwavering resolve.